Well, viewers to this programme are all too aware that there are, shall we say, challenges to meeting the government's plucked out of the air emissions targets using wind, solar and hydro alone. Weaning Australia off coal without returning to the Stone Age was always going to be a little more complicated than, say, falling off a log. And at last, this seems to have dawned on the Energy Minister himself, Chris Bowen. Last month, he told the Australian Business Council in Japan, quote, "I completely acknowledge it's a big job with many road bumps in the way. If it was easy, someone else would have done it," close quote. Well, actually, Mr. Bowen, there are at least 30 electricity grids around the world that have done it. They are virtually emissions-free. Ontario, for example, managed to kick its coal habit 9 years ago. Finland aims to be coal-free by 2029 and would likely get there sooner now that the pressurised reactor is up and running. How did they do it? With nuclear, of course. But Bowen seems to think that's cheating. The size of Bowen's challenge is beyond reckoning. Over the past 12 months, 31% of the electricity in the national electricity market was carbon-free. That means we've got just 6.5 years to get from 31% carbon-free to 82% carbon-free. And the hard truth is for Bowen that there are more problems. We are reaching the natural limits of renewable energy. Setting aside the engineering challenge of accomplishing this 7-year plan, the biggest hurdle is the scarcity of land. We're relearning the lesson that broke the hearts of Australia's pioneering farmers in the late 19th century. Even in a country as vast and sparsely populated as this one, you eventually run out of space. Just because theoretically we have an unlimited supply of wind and solar doesn't mean that the supply of renewable energy is immune from the problems of the economic problems of constraint, of scarcity. As the US economist Thomas Sowell once wrote, "The first lesson in economics is scarcity. The first lesson in politics is to disregard the first law of economics." That's Chris Bowen for you. The political solution to the scarcity problem, for politicians at least, is to rob Peter to pay Paul. In the case of renewables, that theft is committed against those who have other uses for the land, like farmers, native people or koalas. Theft and redistribution is not a genuine solution, of course, it's just a political slight. In the end, there have to be trade-offs. The combined effect of the shortage of land and capital means that the sector is fast running out of puff. It's driving the renewable industrial complex to colonise the seas. Offshore wind is the next big thing, but it's punishingly costly, technically challenging and environmentally risky. Sooner or later, the political class must temper its enthusiasm for renewable energy and accept that the laws of physics and economics are not optional. Chris Bowen must realise that he's the Energy Minister of Australia, not fairyland. Ultimately, it'll mean the adoption of nuclear energy. The only thing is, how much damage will we commit in the meantime? Nuclear has far less impact on the natural landscapes, it occupies less space, it can be built on brownfield sites such as existing coal-fired power stations, and it's reliable and dispatchable. Well, there are problems, of course, as Mr. Bowen likes to point out. Nuclear takes many years to install, but not as many as it will take to build an entire new grid. Small modular reactors will have great promise, but they're yet to be commercially proven, that's true. But the technological challenges have been largely overcome, unlike, well, green hydrogen, for instance. Nuclear is the most expensive form of clean energy there is, except for all the others.